A day of celebration in Liverpool turned to horror this evening.
Football fans and festivities made way for ambulances and the injured.
Instead, a major police operation is now underway.
27 patients in total.
Oh, hell on earth.
Bang.
Welcome to Tactical Truths, the go-to series for military news, tactical analysis and frontline stories that matter. Before we get started, I need your help. 73% of you who watch regularly haven't subscribed yet. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and helps us make this show better for you every single week. I'm Phil Campion, former UK SAS, and this is Tactical Truths. The incident in Liverpool is still fresh, still raw. A celebration turned into chaos when a car ploughed through the crowds. There's a man in custody, but many questions remain unanswered. While the authorities investigate the motive, we're focusing on something else. How ordinary people can respond when caught up in an unfolding attack. Let's look at the current released facts.
Celebration in Liverpool turned to horror this evening after a car ploughed into a crowd of people during Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade.
Right, there's loads and loads of sort of like first eye accounts of this and lots of footage to be sifted through, which I'm sure, not just me, but the police and everybody else concerned will be doing right now and trying to establish exactly why this happened. My concern here is not so much why, where, how and who, as to what could you do? How could you remain as safe as possible or even help out?
Hundreds of thousands of fans were celebrating on the streets of the city as the team took part in a 10-mile open-top bus parade. The collision happened just after 6 o'clock tonight on Water Street, shortly after the players' bus had passed through.
This is a packed street, and when something like this happens, as we've seen before in other incidents, it's literally a lottery as to whether you get hit or not. It really is. It can be as simple as that. Wrong place, wrong time, nothing I can do for you, okay? It's really, really brutal, and it happens extremely quickly. But if there is time, there are provisions you can make to at least get yourself slightly out of the way or less of a target, or in a slightly safer location to what you are when you're out in the middle of it and exposed.
Oh, it's a bit bonuses. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Who's that? What the fuck?
He's out of him.
What the fuck?
What the fuck's going on there?
Oh my god, what the fuck?
As you can see, once the car comes to rest there, people are on it extremely quickly. And I would suggest that, if you did feel that you were able to help in that way, if you did think you were capable of getting somebody out of a car, restraining them, and bringing them to book, then maybe you'd consider going for it in case he starts up again and carries on. Because at that stage of the campaign, you don't know what his intent is. He could be vested up. There's a million different scenarios. So they need to be weighed out properly before you take action. But if you can take action, if you're capable, and even maybe in some cases if you've been trained to, now's your time to shine, isn't it? That said, I would not advocate anyone who's not in a position to do so or who's got no clue whatsoever get involved, because you could just become a hazard, you could become another problem, you could become another statistic. So you've got to weigh things up extremely carefully. If in doubt, you're probably best to stay out. You really are. And get yourself as far away from it as you possibly can. All right?
Nah, he's dead,
That's funny, me, anyone that?
So he's just killed a few people,
As a day of celebration turned into one of tragedy in Liverpool.
And then, of course, there's the aftermath post whatever's happened. There will be casualties. You don't know how long it's going to take people to respond. You don't know how long before the medics are going to get there. And there'll be people screaming, crying, bleeding out, and all that sort of stuff. So if you can cut around, if you have got the skills to do so, if you even just think you can lend your skills to somebody who could tell you what to do, then your input would be massively appreciated, okay? Bearing in mind the whole time, scanning around to see, is there anything else going on here? Am I going to become a casualty myself? The normal rules of first aid apply, don't they? All right? make sure that it's as safe as possible before you stray in, if you can.
Football fans and festivities made way for ambulances and the injured. 500,000 supporters had come to see Liverpool parade the Premier League before a car ploughed into a packed street of pedestrians, leaving many injured, among them children.
It really is an absolute mess. And when there's children involved, it's horrendous. It really is horrendous.
Sadly, 4 of the injured were children who were enjoying the day with their friends and their families. We can confirm that our teams treated 20 patients at the scene for minor injuries, and these did not need hospital treatment. 27 patients in total were taken to hospital by ambulance, and we believe 2 of those, including one of the children, have sustained serious injuries.
At a press conference, authorities confirmed a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area, believed to be the driver of the...
Again, I find it slightly strange that they bring his ethnicity into question here and throw it into the public domain at the very earliest opportunity as well. But, they may have their reasons, okay? There could be repercussions. There could be, they might just be genuinely trying to nullify public reaction on this one. It does look extremely like a terrorist attack, and no one's saying it's not yet. But, perhaps they're just, putting the brakes on things until they know exactly what is going on. And that's not to say that, if it does turn out to be a terrorist attack, you should boot off immediately, because that's not the case. That's what they may be trying to avoid.
Vehicle had been arrested.
We believe this to be an isolated incident, and we are not currently looking for anyone else in relation to it. The incident is not being treated as terrorism.
And they were very, very keen to say that, and I think, this, that and the other, I don't really at this stage want to comment on that. I just want to try and highlight awareness for people who could find themselves in this position, in future, to have the best possible chance of getting themselves out alive. That's what I'm about with this, because I think there's not enough public awareness. There's not enough people who understand how badly things can get and how quickly. And there are plenty of people who are going to be going to concerts this year, who are going to be going to festivals, who are going to be going to large sporting events, who at the end of the day, this could happen at any one of those for any number of different reasons. And it's better to be prepared, in my book.
Some of those hit were taken to nearby restaurants for triage and treatment, and described the moment their day of joy turned to horror.
He was driving down the road, he hit a few people, or quite a lot of people. He knocked a paramedic off the bike as well.
It sounds pretty indiscriminate. We don't know why, or like I say, we've got no idea why it happened. But, it had all the hallmarks of one of these horrendous attacks that we've seen before.
He reversed back, and as he reversed back, he hit somebody that hit me and then threw me on the ground. I got thrown on the ground. Why is he not stopping?
I mean, there is some footage of people kicking his car. There is an argument out there for people to say that, wrong or right, he was provoked. I don't see anything on this earth provoking me enough to want me to go and start running children over indiscriminately. There's no excuse there whatsoever. Blind panic? Could you put it down to that? Not for me to say. But like I say, I'm not here to pull all that stuff apart. It's just, I want people to understand how these things can escalate so quickly, and how everybody during an attack of this sort, or even if it's an isolated incident of this sort, or whatever you want to call it, everyone is at risk who's in that vicinity immediately.
And he was just wiping people out like Skittles.
The planned Premier League trophy parade meant emergency services were already nearby just moments after the vehicle collided into the crowds, rescuing the wounded within minutes.
Our crews rapidly lifted the vehicle.
You've got to commend our emergency services again, who once more run towards and not away from trouble.
Removed 3 adults and 1 child from beneath and passed them to our ambulance service colleagues. We then worked with emergency service partners to ensure casualties received medical treatment and transport to hospital as quickly as possible.
And then we suddenly saw the car reverse and then accelerate and move through the crowd, and honestly people scattered like bowling pins. Honestly, the change in the mood from what has been a glorious day to just hell on earth, it was terrifying.
And I think that's a good description there. It can, anyone who's ever been involved in anything like this at all, and I've been involved in a similar thing myself, where something has gone majorly wrong in a large crowd of people who were there to celebrate. It can go extremely, the acceleration on it is rocket fast. It really is. It can go so very quickly from being the best day of your life to the worst day of your life in a blink of the eye. It really can. And so for me, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of training, a little bit of thinking of what could possibly happen. They say knowledge dispels fear when it comes to parachuting. Well, the same theory works as well for this sort of stuff, all right? If you've got a little bit of knowledge, if you're carrying maybe a few bits of the right kit, and we will cover in a separate series the kind of kit you can have on and about you to protect you or help out or start to mend people after this sort of thing's happened. All right, we'll talk about that. We will talk about what can be carried, what can be used, what can be utilised, and how you can help yourself as best as possible. But that's for another podcast.
It was terrifying.
And then suddenly I heard it accelerate, heard it rev its engine and kind of accelerate a bit kind of forwards, so kind of further down the road. And then suddenly it started accelerating the opposite direction and it rammed into the actual ambulance itself. So it was quite a loud kind of bang.
Moments after the crash, this video shows people surrounding the car. The mood of the crowd has...
I mean, this is where, some of these people, extremely brave, straight in there, straight, get him out, stop him from doing any more. That's an extremely brave call, that is. That's jumping straight into the fray when you don't actually know what the outcome's going to be. With no regard for your own safety. You're jumping in there to try and stop him from him, her, whoever it is, stop that person from doing any more damage. And that's an extremely brave move by any of those involved there. So, they're to be commended, as well as emergency services, who are also running towards that as quickly as they can to try and put an end to things.
Turns to anger. Some try to get into the vehicle. The back window is smashed.
They're on it. I mean, that guy in the red top there, he is proper in there. He's not having that. He's proper. He's in there. So whoever that is, that's an extremely brave, bold move. That is. That's like, I'm not having this. I'm stopping you. You're getting out of this car right now before you can do any more damage. That's an extremely brave person right there. And like I say, if you are that person, then, who am I to stop you? But what I would say is, if you do decide to take that decision upon yourself to help in that way, it might well be the last thing you ever do. All right, I'm not going to take it any further than that. But if you are that person and you make that decision, it might be the last decision you ever make. That's what I will say on that. And then, of course, the police are in there. And now that the guy's out of the car, they almost flip their role over and have to protect him as much as they're stopping him from hurting people, which is a little bit of irony in there, isn't it? They're having to sort of like now go, right, he's ours, he's in custody, we want to take him through the process of what happens next, i.e. you get arrested, you get taken down, you get investigated, you get charged appropriately without mob law taking over and spilling his guts all over the street, because that could happen. That genuinely could happen, So, yeah, again, our emergency services going above and beyond and throwing themselves in the front of danger from all directions at all times during this. So, as you saw on Sunday, May the 26th, 2025, Liverpool was awash with celebration. The club had secured the Premier League title. Families packed the pavements. Water Street was closed off to traffic, but at 17:25 hours, a grey Ford Galaxy followed an ambulance through a raised barrier, picked up speed and drove straight into the crowd. Witnesses described screams, confusion, panic. Emergency services were on the scene within minutes. But in those first seconds, there was no police line. No sirens, just a car and a crowd and chaos. The suspect, a 53-year-old white British male from West Derby, was arrested. He's being held on suspicion of attempted murder. He was reportedly under the influence of drugs. And yet his name hasn't been released. Why not? Well, there's likely a tactical reason for that. When a name is withheld but race is disclosed, it raises questions about public reaction, about broader implications. Is there more to it? Are authorities trying to get ahead of online speculation? Or is it simply legal caution while mental health or political motivations are still being assessed? But this tactical truth isn't about why. We'll leave that to the three-letter agencies and the counter-terrorist teams if needed. This tactical truth is about you. What should you do if something like this happens again? Number 1, distance is everything. If a car breaks through a barrier, run diagonally away from its path. Cars steer towards. Don't run straight back. Run sideways. And into cover if you can. Do not freeze. Your brain will want to rationalise. Don't wait. Move. Pull others with you if you can. But move. Seriously. Use cover. Not just concealment. Get behind something solid. A wall, a lamppost, a concrete bin. Not a bench or a banner, all right? Something that's not going to move. Number 4, you need to scan. Situational awareness. Was this a one-off? Or are there more threats? Listen, observe. Are people running towards or are they running away from something? Could something else be coming? When it's safe, help others, especially kids and elderly. Triage, bleeding, unconscious. Call it in. Make space for medics. Help them out if you can. This might not have been a terrorist incident, but it sure looked like one. And in those moments, your response matters. The people of Liverpool, well, they'll never forget. But hopefully, they will recover as best as possible. Why was he charged with attempted murder and not attempted manslaughter, or maybe even attempted GBH? Because in the UK law, intent is the deciding factor. Murder doesn't require planning. It doesn't require a manifesto. All it takes is a deliberate intent to kill or cause serious harm. Even in the heat of the moment, if the Crown Prosecution Service believes the driver deliberately aimed at the crowd, that's enough to trigger an attempted murder charge. Not manslaughter, not negligence, intent. And that's what the police are working to establish. Let's not wait for government leaflets to tell us how to survive. Let's learn them now. Let's stay aware and look after each other. Subscribe to The Tactical Truth. And if you want the conversations we can't say out loud, then join Force TV Plus for just 16 pence a day.